Can I tell you a story? I was taking care of a gentleman, Frank, a retired cop from Connecticut, not too far from where I grew up. I was living in California at the time, and I was pretty homesick. He had lost his wife and had moved to the West Coast to be with his 3 grown children, and so he was homesick as well. We talk about New England autumns. We talk about tubing on the Farmington River. We talk about this yearly celebration in my hometown called the Shad Derby, which celebrates fish that have come home. I think in part he reminded me of my childhood, a kid enchanted by the idea that here was a profession where you could go home at night and feel like you've helped somebody. A doctor who did the best by her patients. He had a tumor, a liver tumor. He also had a terrible jaundice. And what happens when you are that jaundiced, if you take out some of the liver, your chances of liver failure, at least in this gentleman's case, are higher than normal. And I remember this man saying, I understand, but this is the way I want it. We went ahead with the surgery. About 3 days after his operation, his liver numbers began to rise. His liver was in fact failing. He became groggier, his eyes looking through a fog at the rest of us. And his breath changed. It's something that happens in liver failure. It actually becomes sort of sweet. One day he pulled me aside. It was on one of his clearer days, and he said, "So Doc, how am I doing?" I knew that he would die, but I said, we need to try to nurse you back. He knew what was happening. Once again, he said, "Doc, you tried your best. This is how I wanted it." He died a few days later. And I remember I was in the operating room, I think, when he died. And so as soon as I was done, I went over to his room. And it was so still, you could hear the buzz of the fluorescent lights, and I could hear my own breathing. And Frank was lying there. And I just sat there, pulled up a chair, just sat next to him, and I touched his hands. Death, for a lot of doctors, is this terrible sense that you have failed, that in order to help somebody, you've got to cure them. I was young enough at the time that if he hadn't said it, "This is how I wanted it," I think it would have been absolutely devastating for me. Frank, in one of the last lucid moments of his life, was able to thank me for taking care of him. Frank was taking care of me. Frank